Alright guys, such a Huke and I hope you're doing well and enjoying all day so far. Major 4 in Dallas begins here today. 9 matches today. 5 teams will be eliminated before the end of proceedings this evening. Only 7 teams will go into the Saturday as normal, but all these games are condensed over yesterday and today into what is a 3-day event here. Scump will be here in attendance after last night absolutely demolishing everyone in the $250,000 AT&T Classic. We'll get into this over the coming minutes because Nadeshot was not having the best time against Scump. Is that going to continue on the server this weekend if OpTic versus Thieves play one another? Very well to enjoy to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate it. Let's just dive straight into it. There's been loads going on here in Dallas over the last couple of days. The setup of the venue was all going down and it's pretty hectic there, I'm not going to lie. The venue's spectacular though, and I know that Simp was even talking about this, giving old school CWL vibes. Certainly has the feel of like what Anaheim was back in the day, but I swear the hall here is even bigger than we had at Anaheim. Like, it's actually absurd the amount of space. Not all of it even will be required that the CDL have. And then there's like Brawl Stars right next door, and they have a crazy setup. I guess it's like mobile game money or something because their setup is really clean. And then there's all sorts of activation boosts. I think OpTic Gaming and 100 Thieves and maybe other teams as well, maybe Falcons, they have like their own booth. It's not quite where the COD stuff is, it's just outside of it. But I think some of the OpTic guys will effectively be manning that throughout the weekends, in addition to the watch party and the other things actually going on right next to where the CDL setup is. So yeah, it's all happening. I think what Simp's kind of getting at is the fact that it's not just like, oh, okay, everyone's here for the COD. It's there's going to be, I don't know, thousands of people here for all sorts of different things. The Halo bracket is pretty crazy. You've got the main stage, and then you've just got absolutely rows and rows of setups for the open bracket for Halo. And it is effectively the same thing on the Call of Duty side as well. It's just set up slightly differently. So yeah, spectacular venue. Simp, obviously all the pros were there yesterday getting their warm-up scrims in and stuff for the weekend. How they went, who knows, right? We'll probably talk about it today on the pre-show in a couple of hours' time. One of the big stories, though, of course, is what's happening in challenges. We know that the Stallions team was Swooty and Zach and Skyz and those guys, trying to put on a serious show. There's some other challenges teams that are notable, such as these guys, Ghosty, Maniac, and Aseem. They're back in action as well, so that's pretty cool to see. But I did want to get into this drama from last night. So over the last few weekends, there's been this kind of Annihilator Cup, this AT&T Annihilator Cup, loads of money on the line, and every week they'll play some sort of a different game. A couple of weeks ago it was CS, Scump had the 1v1 against Tens that he won, and this is the thing with Scump. I know that Octane was talking about it with Jake Lucky last night to say, like, Scump's just such an elite gamer that anything you put him on, he's going to be pretty damn good at. But obviously, Call of Duty is the bread and butter, and last night it was Black Ops 6. So this was the time to take advantage of the inherent advantage that Scump has when playing against very, potentially very talented players at their various disciplines. But obviously in COD, it's a no-brainer, right? So effectively, it looks like Scump's running around playing pubs, and he kind of is on some level, given the talent disparity between the players. But it's not like it was, just Scump, and he was the only good Call of Duty player. There were other notable players there as well that we'll see in a second. This is pretty cool that Kremp was there, 1v1ing some people. So, obviously a racing driver now, but he's still pretty good at COD, I imagine. And even to be fair, when Kremp retired, he certainly wasn't bad. He just wasn't quite what he used to be, and he was playing a different role for the team. So, and even, people often make the question, right, okay, who could return to the CDL if they wanted to? Scump obviously could. There's a few that I think Karma probably could. Maybe Clay could if he gave it a go. Octane obviously could, there's a no-brainer there. Could Kremp come back and compete if he really wanted to, and assuming he had the relationship still in the scene to make it work? I think possibly yes, to be fair, but I know people have an opinion on that, and, who's washed up and who's not washed up and these other things. At the end of the day, as we know, it often comes down to motivation and energy, rather than actual pure skill that you don't necessarily lose. A guy like aBeZy, for example, right, like still incredibly talented. If everything was, if aBeZy really wanted to try and make a return, who knows? Maybe it's possible. But in the end, Scump's team, they take the dub. $250,000 Annihilator Cup champions. Scump got the double MVP over the weekends that they played. And really, no surprise, they closed this out in the Call of Duty section. They played a couple of maps here that were just absolutely ridiculous, really. This is Scump basically sweat bad and flawless, and he actually did tweet out about it. It's just, I don't know, it's a semi-competitive setting. It's not the most competitive setting ever, but seeing Scump, like, just in one of these settings again, just frying, definitely brings you back, right? Because this is what it used to be back in the day. You don't see Scump often do this anymore, you know? I mean, for those of us who are watching Sweatband and 88-0 Flawless when it first came out back in 2012, 2013 or whatever, in the Black Ops 2 days, you know, this is what Scump's content used to be all about, and you don't see it much anymore, and for understandable reasons, because the game is not what it used to be. But, you know, seeing Scump run around, just smoke people and drop nuclears, because that's what he dropped this map. He finished the map 46-0 flawless, dropped a nuclear on the opposition, so, you know, just pretty absurd. And then they played some other games, right, because it's not like there were only one team that was decent at playing COD here. There was also Nadeshot and Octane's team, and they were looking pretty good as well. They actually put someone nearly, well, in a 15-point club, right? So Nadeshot and Octane just won a map there, and then it was time for Scump to play them. And we got some moments such as this. So here we are on the skyline. Nadeshot's trying to gun Scump. He hits a couple of bullets, and then, I mean, look, realistically, he probably knows the gunfight at this point, and the map is over. But you don't want to get slammed like this, right? You don't want to get slammed like this with your Nadeshot, certainly on a weekend where, you know, 100 Thieves are looking to win again, and Scump's just absolutely 180 and turning him with a pistol. We can see it from Scump's POV here as well. So, yeah, this is what it looked like from Scump's angle. Scump was even kind of, you know, weak coming in here, been shot in the back, and he spins around and guns Nadeshot, and unfortunately, Scump realises that was his old boy as they go on to close out the map. So, yeah, it happens sometimes, I suppose, but Nadeshot getting slammed, and it was just pretty cool to see. Like, this was one of the overall scoreboards here, 66 in 24, Octane and Nadeshot on the other side. Okay, look, it's not exactly CDL standards, but it was still a competitive match that Scump was involved in, and it was pretty cool to see everyone get involved in this, quite frankly. So that was the big drama of the day, but as I say, could this be relevant at all for whether OpTic are going to do well on the weekend? Is it a sign of things to come for the green wall that, you know, OpTic maybe this weekend in Dallas is going to be the one? Because we've seen it for a little while now, OpTic home buff, right? We saw it last year, of course, at the event up in Allen, Texas. It was the World Championship. If there was any event that ever OpTic were going to win at Champs, it was probably going to be that one. And, of course, they went on to do so. Yes, OpTic have a bit of a home crowd buff everywhere they go, but here in Dallas you would expect it to be potentially stronger than elsewhere, and yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. They've done well at events in Texas historically, OpTic, when they ran their own stuff back at the Esports Stadium Arlington, when they used to host their own majors. Then, of course, there's been the World Championship, and now it's a bit of a different story here at DreamHack Dallas, but still, I'm sure that the majority of fans here are going to be OpTic fans, and, you know, maybe there's something in that for this weekend. There's also the reality, and it's not really a massive deal, but, you know, some players have to travel in from afar to these events. OpTic, you know, they live pretty close, as to be fair to many of the teams. Is that any advantage? Some could even argue it's a disadvantage sometimes, because if you're, you know, if you're basically staying where you live and then you're coming into the venue every day, maybe you're not in tournament mode. That was a bit of a discussion of the last Dallas event with what the Thieves guys were playing at. But, yeah, there's a few different ways to look at this. The reality is the OpTic guys are going to be buzzing for this weekend to try and finally turn it around, because they've placed top 8, top 8, top 8 over the last 3 majors. They don't want to make it a four-peat, especially now they've got a very different roster in the team. Shotzzy and Huke have looked pretty damn good online as of late. Mercules, we know, should potentially be a star for the future of this OpTic team, certainly in the league in general. And obviously Dashy is Dashy, right? And the other cool thing about this event is the fact that Formal's here too for the OpTic Halo stuff, right? Because just down the hall from where the Call of Duty stuff is happening, OpTic are getting involved in all of the Halo matches. They played Gen G and TSM today, the Halo team. OpTic Texas play Ultra, their first game up of the day, and it could be their only game of the day if they win. If they lose, it will not be their only game of the day, because losers round 1 also happens today. We'll see the bracket here in a second, so it's possible they play more matches, but yeah, there's lots going on for all of the teams. This is the bracket if you guys aren't still familiar with it. It's pretty much as good as it could have been in terms of storylines, I would say, for the weekends. Heretics, Rocker, Thieves, Surge, FaZe, Cloud9, OpTic Ultra. We talked about Dashy's perspective on it yesterday, that as far as he's concerned, pretty much all of these series are interesting in some way or another. OpTic Ultra, of course, that's OpTic's first round game. Really important. I mean, every first round game is important. If you win this, you guarantee yourself to get to the World Championship. If you lose, it gets a bit more sketchy, right? Rocker and Cloud9 can potentially make a bit of a run. Boston, though, I wouldn't expect to get that far in this tournament either. So, you know, potentially OpTic could still look to overhaul one of those guys. It's still possible that OpTic could even get the 5th seed, but pretty unlikely. 6th seed is maybe possible if OpTic were to get top 3, maybe make the finals. 7th seed is absolutely doable with not too much difficulty if they make a run and Boston don't. So that's one of the options. Of course, they played Ultra online the other day, and Ultra lost pretty emphatically. But I do expect it to be a closer affair. I mean, I look at these series and you've got to think there's got to be a couple of 3-2s in here at the very least. But some of them are going to be going on the Bravo stage, of course, and we'll see that in a second. So, yeah, these are the games, as I say. The first round of winners will be played. The first round of losers will be played. And I believe this is the Elimination Round 2 game. I'm not 100% sure which one it's actually going to be. But I think it might be this upper side Elimination Round 2 game that happens today, which means that, you know, it will be Heretics, Rocker, Boston, Thieves, Vancouver, Falcons. Whoever wins those matches will then play again. So, yeah, 5 teams eliminated. The loser of these first games and this one all happening today. So there's a lot going on, and this is how it's going to transpire. So these are the games. And look, I know there's been going to be a big question, and there already has been among the fans over the last few days. Is this good or is this bad, right? Like, should we have all these simultaneous games? Is it good for the fans? Is it not? And look, I understand the debate either way. It's going to be real interesting for us doing the watch party today as well. I'm not 100% sure what the current setup is because I was setting everything up yesterday, and because you get the direct feed in that arrives from the main stage, and typically that direct feed, you only have one direct feed. So we have the equipment that you plug the direct feed into, and then it transfers it to, and then you have a capture card, and then that reads it into the PC. And hopefully it works, right? Because it's always a bit of a question mark. I don't really know what I'm doing here half the time. But I think it should work. The other question, though, is that we have probably 2 feeds, right, from Alpha and Bravo at the same time. And I don't really know how we are meant to take them into the capture cards. I'm not really sure what the plan is. Like, my current understanding is, at least based on what I was thinking yesterday, is that if we want to change to watching the Bravo stream on the watch party, because we're going to be doing a watch party this weekend, it's not just going to be the pre-shows, we're going to do the watch parties as well. You know, Don's here, we're going to have a great time. Instead of, like, we're literally going to have to unplug, I think, the cables and plug in the other cables. I think that might have to be the solution if we want to change from watching Alpha to Bravo. But still, there are worse ways to do it. And it's going to be really exciting, I think, to see. Because, I mean, look, maybe for whatever reason, OpTic Ultra is looking like a bit of a snooze fest. OpTic are just smoking them. And, okay, Cloud9 FaZe is pretty interesting. And also, it's likely that the series will go different lengths of time. I mean, Thieves Surge might be done, and then Heretics Rocker might still be going on. So, you know, that's a possibility as well. Maybe we just end up watching the main stream, and after the main match is done, they will switch over to see what's happening on the Bravo side. That's also possible as well. But it's the first time we've seen this in a very long time. I thought we would see the day again. But I've thought for years now, like ever since I literally went to the first ever event that I went to in the CDL in 2020, I was like, damn, this is so dead without multiple streams. That was honestly my perspective at the time, because there'd be like a poor match happening on the main stage I wouldn't care about, and I'd want to watch other things, and there wasn't anything going on like there used to be back in the day. I think it's better for the fans in person, and I think it should be better for the fans at home as well, although, you know, it is what it is. If you're trying to watch OpTic and FaZe play, you've got to watch them play at the same time, which isn't exactly ideal, I suppose, but there are pros and cons to it. It certainly should be relatively efficient, I would say, in terms of getting over the line. So anyway, those are the first games, and then, yeah, no, this is actually right. It is Miami, Minnesota, Boston, Thieves, Vancouver, Falcons, who play the final game of the day, and that will then determine the final team eliminated of the day as well. So massive matchups to come. I mean, this is going to be such an important defining day of the entire tournament, and yeah, doing predictions today is going to be a challenge because, I mean, you're not going to get much information, but you've got to have to predict regardless. So very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.
We got a UAV somehow. Double lips on time, weak. Bump sniffer didn't help us break that.
Yo.
That is unfortunate.
That's a problem what just happened to me. That's a problem.
Okay.
End or
Going piano side.
on me, dead. On side still. Bum sniffler.
Oh my
Nice.
god, Matt just got 180. Yo, one more. Get that.
One second, one take.
Oh my god, Matt just got 180.
Yeah, they deserve to lose that with all those bitch ass guns they be using.
Matt just got 180.
Bust out the shot.
Bum sniffler with the shotgun, bro.